Why is it that we need tutors?
Some of the kids really struggled with even raising their hand in class to ask a question.
COVID changed the workplace, but many of us are not aware that it actually changed education as well.
Lion Tutoring International's founder and CEO, Thobo Khathola.
The future of education is personalized learning. Students are able to pick and choose which system would work for them better. Last valuation we had was at 25 million ZAR. That was one of the highlights of my careers. And for me, it wasn't just a Forbes under 30. It feels so good to break a barrier. Our education system needs to be overhauled. I just want to change how things have been done, which are not working.
My guest today is an entrepreneur, economist, and life coach. He's the CEO and founder of Lion Tutoring. He won the Best Youth-Owned Business 2017 Botswana Youth Awards, Ministry of Youth and Participation. Best Youth-Owned Business 2018, Best Youth-Owned Business 2019. He's also the first Botswana to cover a Forbes magazine under the age of 30. He was listed on the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 of 2022. Only 30 African entrepreneurs made it to the list. Welcome to the For This Reason podcast, Thobo. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
What a long resume at such a young age. What would you say has been the highlight of your career?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. The highlight of my career was, starting my business at an early age. And it's something that I can really thank God for. And, after all those years, I think we're now 10 years next year. And, seeing the amount of young people that we are making an impact either through education and the young people that we're employing, which is, 300 and now close to 400 young people that we're providing jobs for. So that's really the highlight.
Wow, close to 400 young people employed. Why education? Why did you decide to solve the education problem?
I think it's something that just came naturally to me. I was quite the academic from high school. So I got academically accelerated at Form 4. So I skipped Form 5, basically. And the way that I was able to also help teachers out, explain, because you know how our schools back home are, where maybe if there's no maths teacher, you become the maths teacher, or the student that knows most of the syllabus becomes the teacher. I was that student. So fast track university, I was at the University of Pretoria, and I had a tutoring job from second year to when I finished. So when I finished university, I tried to look for employment, and it wasn't easy to get employment, so I started my own business.
Yeah. I mean, one can imagine, leadership and youth empowerment is definitely your thing.
Yeah.
But for me, the impressive part is the fact that there's some social responsibility and community development here.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the program that you run, Lion Tutoring?
Yes. So basically what Lion Tutoring started off was just a tutoring company. Like, we have tutoring companies. Our tutors are deployed to your house. And in the year 2019, we started to innovate because of COVID. And through that, gave birth to our apps, which is app on the Google Play Store and the Android Store, which is like Uber for tutors. So the same way you would get an Uber driver, you can be able to get a tutor. You can see tutors in your location, the star ratings, reviews from other customers. Then you book a tutor, you pay, then we send the tutor to your house. So we just try to make education more convenient, more easier to consume for the community. And we've also done CSR with companies like F&B Foundation back in Botswana, the government of Botswana, where we were deployed into schools and sort of just try to help them to prepare for their finals.
That's a very cool concept. Uber for school, for tutors. How many sign-ups did you sort of see in the beginning, and now what are the numbers looking like?
The numbers are looking great. Because it's something that hasn't been done before. There's one other company that has attempted to do it, but I'm not sure where it's going. But the sign up rate at the beginning wasn't that much because there was still a lot of customer education that we had to put in to say the same way you can get an Uber Eats, or the same way you get an Uber Eats, you can get a tutor to your house. So that's how we started. And, through just educating our customers, putting discounts on the apps, making it more user-friendly. Now a good 40% of our signups are coming through the app, and the other 60 is still your traditional parent calling to say, can I see the tutor? Can we have a meeting? And then finally paying to subscribe for the service.
Wow. I mean, this is stuff that people would think exists, but actually these solutions are very needed. Expansion. How did you approach expansion? Because I can believe in the beginning maybe you had, you now employ close to 400 young people.
Yeah.
In the beginning maybe you had 10 tutors, 20. How did it grow to the number that you're on now?
Oh man, it's so crazy because I'm actually employee number one. It's such a crazy story. And if I was just to tell you, you wouldn't believe it, being unemployed, being on the unemployment line, almost depression, and just having that light bulb moment. And, I think I can pay a lot of it to my spirituality, going to church and just being encouraged and see that, I actually have a skill that comes naturally, or that God has given me. I can be able to break down concepts. I can be able to communicate to students, I'm a big brother. I have 2 siblings, and, like all my students, I take them as younger siblings. So there's always that point of authority that comes. So, starting myself as employee number 1, tutoring students myself, and over time, my calendar would get packed and I would need another tutor. So there was employee number 2, and then employee number 3, and then, now there's employee number 400.
Wow.
And there's a whole support staff, these IT people, there are accountants, there are internal auditors, there are HR officers, it's a whole operation. And, I can't take the credit, but just give it to God,
Wow. No, what an inspiring story. But when we hear your story, one would sort of think that, why is it that we need tutors?
Yeah.
Is it because the educational system is a bit outdated? Is it because maybe teachers that are there, are sort of legacy teachers saying, well, I'm going to hold on to this job forever and not upgrading their skills? Why such a strong need for students to be tutored?
So tutoring for me is more of academic support. So being a high achiever myself, I also needed tutors because even a student who's getting A stars needs to maintain those A stars. A student who's getting A stars and is not able to deal with nerves, like once it's exam time and they say, put your bags away, calculators away, take out your writing material. Sometimes the nerves can get the better of you. So the same way that even the top athlete will still have a coach is why a student needs a tutor, to maintain the high achievement of their grades, to move from one grade to the next. So the way that we tutor a B student trying to get an A is different from a D student trying to get a C. So you see that there's that tailored approach that we bring to our students to say, having a one-on-one session over and above what you get from school. Because at school, right now, some of the extreme cases, you get a teacher-to-student ratio of, 30, 40:1. And some of the private schools, even 20:1. It might seem low, but your child doesn't get that one-on-one attention. The teacher goes with the pace of the class. There are deadlines. They still have to mark. And in some schools, the teacher is also the cricket teacher. So your maths teacher will be taking care of the cricket club or the, religious club in the school, whatever the case may be. So we really need tutors for that tailored approach to learning.
Oh, that's very interesting, because I remember when I was young, I went to school, and over the weekend, we would all, get into a taxi, whatever transport was available, to go to the village next to us, Njerere, where we used to actually go for extra maths lessons. And when we got there seemed to be more students than they were like students in the classroom originally, which really spoke to the fact that there are certain people that are better at teaching certain things than others. Have you found that in your app? Is it a ratings app where it's like 5-star, 3-star? How does that work?
It's like almost you went onto it. It works that way. So basically, once a student or a parent is happy with the tutor, they give them some star ratings.
So is it both parent and student? Or
Parent.
Okay, one.
Yeah,
person.
both of them.
Okay, they each have their own rating.
Yes, because even the parent, from the admin perspective, the student might say, my tutor is really good. He knows how to explain concepts, but the tutor is always late, not coming on time, not communicating. So the parents would rate them from an admin side, and the student will rate them from were you able to cover the content? Did you understand the concept clearer? We're even developing a sort of a feedback loop, which even elaborates further. So instead of just saying 5 stars or 5 thumbs up, we need to understand, why do you give your tutor 5 stars? What is it that they're different from other tutors? And that sort of feedback loop helps us to be able to recruit better tutors.
But I mean, obviously with Uber and all these applications, they have to have a driver's license and they get in, right? And then they are getting rated. With your application, what is the criteria? What's the entry level? Or is it that the rating system controls who's good and who's not?
Yes. So now that is the tutors coming through the door. So it's the recruitment. And what we do is we partner with HR agencies. There are some that we partner with here in Botswana and in South Africa. So we'll tell them that this month we need 30 maths tutors. So they would do the whole recruitment process. They do their fingerprints. They check if they don't have any background, sexual offenders, and criminal records. Then they would also do authentication on their qualifications. So, somebody can say they have a master's in economics whilst they don't. So they do all of that. And then once they're done with that, they give the tutors to us, and then we further shortlist. We also have that communication with our HR. We have an internal HR team, which also just does its own check. So we make sure by the time we send this tutor to your house, all the potential risks are eliminated, and we are sure that this is the person who has achieved this, and the even experience. We take people that have done education, and you might be a good accountant, but you haven't done Bachelor of Accountancy in education, or you haven't done something in education to back that up.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's a whole value chain.
Somebody is quite good. I mean, what if you have somebody who's brilliant at something, but they haven't studied it?
Yeah.
Are they allowed to still tutor that?
Yeah, and we do still get a lot of those. Like, we have a lot of engineering graduates, masters in engineering. But most of them, I say a good majority of them, they do like an extra year of postgraduate certificate in education. Okay. So that they just add that up. But the ones that don't, we still also check experience. You'll find that most of them have tutored in their universities, like I did at the University of Pretoria, but I didn't do anything in education. But I still have that experience. 3 years experience of tutoring.
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, there's lots of questions I'd want to find out, because one would think, is it online? What about the online approach? But maybe before we get to the online approach, on Uber, once a driver gets a very bad rating, they sort of get kicked off, I think, or retrained.
Yeah.
And what happens when a tutor gets a bad rating?
Yeah, we do have internal structures in place which we deal with those tutors. So it could be that maybe the one that I've seen, where the tutor had an accent. So he's a French tutor from the DRC. So you'd have an accent, so the students won't be able to pick it up when he switched to English. So that is just something that we'll try to also help him out to speak a bit slower. So there's a lot of support we give our tutors. So by the time we cut ties with a tutor, we've done all efforts, possible for us to be able. So then there'll be things like, if maybe they do something which is illegal, which obviously now it becomes a case for the authorities, but we've never really had that in the 10 years of operation. And I think our structures also, we try to make it a bit impossible for us to have these, we're really paranoid. So we check everything, background checks, etc. And, most of the clients are happy. Then also, because it's an e-commerce platform, there's a returns policy, a refund policy. So if a client is not happy with the lessons, at any time they can stop the service, then we refund the monies back to them.
Oh, wow.
I think it's there by law. By law, we have to. Yeah.
There's a lot of communication about the gig economy. A lot of people are saying that, especially the Gen Z, the 2000s, they're saying they don't want to sit in an office and be obliged to a 9 to 5. They want to participate in the gig economy. And, there's the Fivers and all these other platforms.
Yes.
What are you finding? Is this a better option for people? Are people taking it as, this is my job? I don't want to do anything that's going to be a 9 to 5 sort of setup?
Yeah, we have both. We have professionals that are working. So you have an accountant working for a bank, and they would do this after hours and on weekends because you are in charge of your times. And like you say, we have both options where it's online or in person. So you could be tutoring. Like we have students in Brazil and Italy who are doing online tutoring with our tutors back in Botswana.
Okay, so this is it's an online platform that allows people to, from anywhere around the world.
From anywhere around the world.
Oh, wow.
Then the in-person is only constrained to Botswana and Gauteng and Cape Town. So that's where we have our physical tutors that can come to your house.
But it can also be online.
It can also be online. So if you are in Italy and you request, it will tell you that we don't have your tutor in Milan, but we do have online options. And usually they are doing your IGCSE, which is global, or your IB syllabus. So just connect them with the IGCSE or an IB tutor either in Botswana or South Africa, then they connect online.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, is it only education that you currently do? I'd want to learn how to cook. Want to have somebody there online.
Thanks. I want to take that note. We have swimming lessons. So you might have a pool at home and you can't swim, but there's somebody's maybe Mandla 2 blocks away from you who has done Bachelor of Sports Science and they know how to swim. They can come to your house. We also have guitar lessons, piano lessons. And very soon you're going to have cooking lessons.
I like that.
That's for the tip.
Yeah, the reason I share that is because I actually learned how to code from Fiverr. Finding people that can code and say, hey, can you please teach me this, that, and that, and build. And so it's a very interesting concept. But I want to talk about the online element to say, is there a need for the personal touch? Because people then say, oh, well, there's online lessons, there's YouTube, there's this.
Yeah.
What have you been finding?
So over the time, it's at first we really needed to have in-person tutoring. But the way COVID had really disrupted the education system and how education is done. You'd be sitting in front of a tutor either in Skype or Zoom or Teams, and you would have a device. So there will be like a tablet like this, which is plugged into your computer. And as the student is taking notes, it displays on the computer and vice versa. The tutor can also be taking notes and it shows on the screen. So there's some of those tools that have enabled or have simulated the experience to be almost like in the classroom, almost like you're meeting with the tutor face to face, Right now, also, we did something with the university in Singapore where they're having virtual reality classrooms where the student would have that, VR set, and it's almost like when you turn, you can see that here's another student, but they're all in their homes and the teacher's also in his home. So that is some of the amazing things that we're really trying to disrupt how education is being done. But still, we don't want to leave behind the people that are still traditional
with a
pen and paper, chalkboard. We still want to cater for that also.
But I think it's interesting to see that COVID changed the workplace, but many of us are not aware that it actually changed education as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like I'm saying, go to other countries. It's students have an option to go to school or not. If a student is sick, they don't have to miss the lesson. They can just be connected, the same virtual.
So it's like a work from home concept.
Home concept, yeah. And in countries where maybe even traffic is a problem, getting your child to school across town, is a problem. Most of them just opt to have their lessons online. And it's almost like a real life experience.
Yeah, and let's talk about the business, running the business, because we know with Uber, and I don't know the facts, but I think they take 20%. Bolt, I think they take How does it work with you guys?
Yeah. So with us, the split between the tutors and us through beginning stages has always been 60 to us, 40 to the tutor. And over time, we're trying to get the tutors to get more money. But obviously, you know how economies of scale work. You know, the more that we try to increase to the tutor, if it doesn't show on our bottom line properly, you know, we can go out of business. But, you know, big companies like your Bolts and your Ubers, they're able to give the driver more because it's a huge operation. So we are also hopefully one day, you know, at some point we're even 75% revenue to us and 25 to the tutor. But now slowly but surely we're getting there. You know, there are some packages that we have where it's 50-50, and your online packages where there are not much expenses on our side, it can go down as 60 to the tutor and 40% to us. And that's the revenue split.
And what about technical skills? I mean, of course, yes, I can imagine maths is one of them, science is one of them.
Yeah.
But what if somebody wants to learn how to be a more confident manager?
Yeah.
Is there room for that, or is it still very much educational syllabus?
Yeah, at the moment it's still education syllabus because the limitation is from our side in terms of management. How do we track if what you've been doing or the tutorials you've been having, how effective are they? So you'd find with that, it's quite broad to say, you could say after the lesson, I'm still not confident. You know, there's no clear line of measure to say, how do you measure if now you are more confident or not? But over the years, we've had public speaking for kids where we just piloted it and see if it can help them become more confident. Because some of the kids really struggled with even raising their hand in class to ask a question. So we've had that over the years. The other thing which we have, which is non-academic, is your psychometric tests. So we've piloted that really well, and we've partnered with a company in Kenya it's a group of educational psychologists which have developed this online tool which allows you to answer a set of questions. Then it can break down your psychometric test assessment to say there's a personality side which will tell you, are you sanguine, are you choleric, are you melancholic? Then there's a side which will even match your student with possible careers, looking at their personality, looking at their competence also. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now, in terms of, you've done very well from somebody who was unemployed to now building a business empire.
Yeah.
Where did the personal influence come? Who has been some of your key mentors or influencers in your journey?
Yeah, the biggest one is Mr. Vusi Tembekwayo. I've really been following him from the days where they did the show, The Dragon's Den. I used to watch Dragon's Den a lot, the UK version and the Shark Tank, the US version. But it's really nice to have somebody in this part of the world going through the challenges that we go through in South Africa, in Botswana, in Sub-Saharan Africa. And it's really good we are able to identify better with an entrepreneur in this part of the world. So for me, he's been quite instrumental, and I've joined his mentorship program from last year. And it's really done wonders for our company in terms of marketing, finance. Some of the things that were mistakes that we could have made, we didn't make because you'd have a one-on-one with Mr. Vusi and he would say, guys, try to do it this way, see how it works. And the good thing I like about mentorship is it's not somebody to say, change your whole strategy, do it this way. They'll say, here's a different set of eyes, try it this way. You can still continue with your way. And then maybe after some time, you can see which works better. And most of the time, they've saved us time, money, and resources.
What are one of those lessons? What is one of those things that when you came into the mentorship program, you were like, whoa, this became the game changer? What were one of those lessons?
So the time we joined the mentorship program, we were raising capital. So obviously, there's the debt and the equity side. So most of us entrepreneurs think that you have to lay off a lot of equity, and we forget that you can leverage debt. So I've learned really how to leverage debt. I have my own home that I've obviously paying off. How do you work with your banker, to be able to release some equity of your house, get some debt financing, and equity could be like a final alternative, like when everything has worked and then now you can, sell shares. But most of us as young entrepreneurs, we are too quick to raise, we're too quick to get people on our cap table, and it becomes really difficult to get them off the cap table. So like that's the one thing that I can say has really helped us. Right now we're quite capitalized. We are meeting our expansion targets, and I'm still owning 100% of my business. And had I not started this mentorship program, I probably could have been owning less. Probably there will be a time that obviously would raise through the instrument of equity, but we still have to try the debt route first, and then once that is overcapitalized, we can go the equity side. And then the other thing is also just the network. There are professionals, there are bankers, there are accountants, there are entrepreneurs in different education. The other ones are in marketing. So it's like a ecosystem. And we really do business with each other. We help each other. So I think over and above just learning from Mr. Vusi, ourselves also as entrepreneurs, we're having such a nice, doing business together. It's a lonely journey.
Yeah,
It's a lonely journey.
Indeed. And I mean, you speak very well about equity and debt, and many entrepreneurs struggle with that. I find that many companies in Africa never speak about what's the evaluation.
Yes.
And what is the evaluation of Lion Tutoring?
The last valuation we had was at 22 million Botswana Pula, which is 25 million ZAR, the South African rands. So that is the last valuation. So most of the time, as entrepreneurs, we are quick to say, I'm valuing my business at X amount. But they're actually professionals. The same way you bring a valuer to your house, and they would say, oh, it's a 4-bedroom house, or en suite, there's a swimming pool, there's an electric fence, it's in this part of town. That is what the valuers do when they value the business. They look at the assets, they look at the balance sheets, the income statements. I'm not a professional there, so I would just give them all that they need, and then they would come up to say, this is what your business is worth. DCF models, there are so many models that they use, and then it will make sense if we were to go and raise capital to say this is what our business is worth, and these are the reports that are coming from the valuer.
Yeah. The future of education, I mean, a lot of people talk about the digital age, institutions should take it up. Because I believe you've got a lot of data points that you can look at to say, the future of education looks like this. Parents want this. Students want this. This is working. What direction is the future of education? Is it tutoring?
Yeah. Well, the future of education is personalized learning, because now students are starting to get options in which we didn't have even a decade ago. The whole thing, that COVID, we really underestimate the COVID quotient, how COVID has really disrupted things. Now that a student can be able to start school from grade 1 to grade 8, write as a private candidate the exams, then proceed to grade 9 to grade 12, and still write as a private candidate. And nowadays, students are even able to pick and choose the syllabus that they want to do. So if I feel that the South African CAP system is not good enough for my child, I want the IB system, or I want the Cambridge system, students are able to pick and choose which system would work for them better. So nowadays, it's like education is more customizable. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and students are starting to be able to pick and choose. And that is a good direction that we're taking, because the education system has long been about testing a giraffe and a monkey how to climb the tree, or the goldfish. Obviously the monkey's going to climb the tree, but the goldfish and the giraffe won't. So nowadays it's becoming more customizable. There's the introduction of robotics, AI. You've done also a bit of coding. Students are able to hop on to Upwork or Fiverr and get a coder to help them. YouTube, nowadays there's so much YouTube. Even TikTok, there's TikTok learning where students can just go there and learn absolutely anything, and they can be a professional. So that is where really education is going. It's going to customizable. It's going into, you don't have to take the time that right now, I had a student who at the age of 14 wrote DA Form 5, IGCSE, and they passed. They got really well. They got grades enough to get them into university, but he's still young to get to university. So you do A levels to just help him to study abroad. So right now, it's no longer to say the curriculum for an average student takes 5 years or high school takes 5 years. Student can do it in 3 years and still get better grades than one that stood for 5 years into the education system.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you were given an award, the Forbes Africa list, and you actually made the cover of Forbes Africa. How was that? How was it receiving an award for your work?
That was so exciting. That was one of the highlights of my careers. And, for me, it wasn't just a Forbes under 30, because in my country, before that, we've never seen a young person get onto a Forbes cover. So for me, it was such amazing. I think ever since, there's another lady that went on to the cover 2 years after me. So it's like, it feels so good to break a barrier that has always been a barrier, for our country, for people that look like me and you, who haven't been on to that, So for me, it was really a good vote of confidence. And it really brought motivation to other entrepreneurs in Botswana, to the people in my team, the accountants, the tutors themselves, to see that through our efforts, we are able to get onto that. So I was just a representation of all of those guys. And I try by all means to show that it's not just me, it's the whole team.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, having to get there and get that award, there must have been challenges that you had to navigate through the journey. And what are those challenges? I mean, especially when you were starting, and what were the lessons that you can share with an entrepreneur watching to say when you were starting, these challenges were facing you and you had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say it's growth challenges. The first one, day one, is obviously capital. Where do you get the capital? And through bootstrapping, through doing the service myself to get money, to put money into finance, into marketing, just taking that money, flipping it, over and over and over again, it's a challenge. Then you get to a point where now it's taxes, the taxman is starting to knock at your door and say, man, are you paying VAT? Are you paying pay as you earn for your employees, etc.? So some of those challenges we had to overcome and learn as we go. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting because right now also we broke the threshold for audit. Now we are supposed to be audited. It's no longer a choice. And, it's so amazing to learn how to fly as you're falling. So for me, it's always been about, just learning next milestone, next stage, even regulators, most of the regulators would be say, your tutors, how experienced are they? Do you have the necessary licensing, etc., And as you grow, you acquire what is needed for the company to keep growing. So that is, the challenges come with opportunities.
Challenges come with opportunities indeed. I mean,
Yeah.
you've guest lectured and you're a tutor yourself.
Yeah.
What are the insights that you often take away from a lesson?
Yeah.
What are those things that you realize and you're like, okay, these are interesting insights that could be used?
Yeah, the guest lecturing was so amazing. I did one at the Botswana Accountancy College, and I was also invited at the University of Pretoria, my old university. And it's so amazing to see how when you practicalize things for students, it sticks for such a long time. I'm sure even with yourself, most of the lessons that you still would remember today are those that made practical sense. Your teacher would make a practical scenario. That's why I always liked maths, problem solving in maths. And nowadays, it's even way advanced. Back then they would just say, Mike goes into a shop and buys 100 watermelons. You're like, so the first thing you're like, what is Mike going to do with 100 watermelons, But nowadays, it's really practical problem solving to say you're going to use this algorithm to solve this equation and you get the answer. It's your day-to-day challenges. So I think the way that we bring the practical aspect to students, sharing our personal journey as an entrepreneur to the students who are studying entrepreneurship, that is a game changer. And I think that is where most universities don't get it. You know, you would have a lecturer teaching entrepreneurship who hasn't started his own business. Nothing wrong with that. He's an academic, that's fine. But it doesn't hurt from time to time to bring an actual entrepreneur to come and share the problems, the struggles, for the students to see the passion or the pain, to say, guys, this is really hard, you know, for us to be vulnerable to students. So I think that is where we are really missing it in the education system. We are learning from people that understand the theory, but they don't know the practical.
That's profound.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the future, what do you see as the future of Lion Tutoring in the next 5-10 years from now?
Oh, man, I've learned not to limit God. You know, like if you were to tell me this year that we'd be having mobile apps, you know, I wouldn't have believed you. But from my side and from the team, you know, we're trying to get to UK, we're trying to get to the US also. And we've been having a lot of data from our applications showing us people requesting for our tutors in those regions. So the way that we expand into other markets, we are really data driven. So if you are sitting in Birmingham and you are requesting a tutor on our platform and you leave the app, it's gonna share the data with us to say there are 10 guys looking for maths tutors in Birmingham. There are 20 guys looking for English tutors in London, you know. So that is how we get into those markets. So I think, we just allow God to take, you know, the wheel, and also, you know, be driven by the data. As the data comes in, as we reach out and change people's lives, hopefully this will become a global brand.
Definitely. I mean, in South Africa and in Botswana, well, in SADC, the whole SADC region, I'm not sure you have a competitor. I think you might be the best one that there is.
Thank you.
But looking out there in the rest of the world, who are your competitors, or who are your industry giants that you're sort of growing with?
There are big names here in South Africa who've been in this game for long. The one, I won't mention the name, but they've been there for over 50 years doing tutoring. They've done it so well. And I've worked for the company myself, and there's a lot that I'm learning. And you know, the way that our platform is created, we're trying to also be an ecosystem for the tutoring companies, you know. So there are these business that will also drive into the other tutoring companies, and we can all win, you know. So I look at competition more of collaboration. There's a lot of ways that we can collaborate as an industry of educators. And I think if we collaborate, we can all make it, you know. But once we start competing, we drive prices down, and we end up even compromising on the quality. So I think just the collaborative efforts, you know, it's really what's helping us. Even back home in Botswana, the tutoring companies that are around or that have sprung up after we came to the market, you know, we're working with together. So even here in South Africa, the big players, you know, the giants, we're working with them. We're constantly also sending students. You know, if a student comes to me and I don't have a certain tutor, instead of just letting go of that student, I would rather outsource that service. So just becoming an ecosystem, you know.
What's the one book that's had a significant influence, maybe in your leadership or in your life or in the way you approach business?
Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. That's the one book. And I've read that book so many times.
Why is that?
Yeah, like just the way that he shows that, you know, there's the rest of us doing things in an average manner. Then there are the outliers, you know. For you to be a Serena Williams, for you to be a Litile Tebogo, the runner in Botswana who broke the 200-meter record, you know, it's not just doing things on an average way. It's not just eating an average diet. It's not just exercising or gymming averagely. Like, you have to really break the mold. You have to put in more blood, sweat, and tears, you know. And I believe that my entrepreneurial journey, you know, has really been successful because of that. Trying to constantly be an outlier. If people put 10,000 hours, I want to put 20,000 hours or more, you know. So that's basically a book that has really shaped me. And the good book, the Bible. You know, the Bible is so profound. I have read the book of Ecclesiastes like cover to cover, and some of those principles, they are so timeless. You'd think it's just Abraham and Bo Solomon back then, but it's things that you'd actually work. If it talks about the principle of seed time and harvest, learning from the ant, learning from this, those are things that you can practicalize and you can become of excellence and, even more superior than your competition. So the Bible, book of Ecclesiastes, book of Proverbs, those are books that have really shaped me.
Definitely. I mean, thinking about Proverbs and the way it rebukes laziness. You can't read Proverbs and yeah, it actually lets you know that, hey, if you're lazy, poverty is coming like an armed robber
in the night.
So yeah, those are things that have really shaped and built us. But maybe talking about work ethic, because here in South Africa, we had a stint where DJ Zintle said that young people in South Africa are unemployable. And everybody came and attacked him and black Twitter and and one of the things we try and do with the podcast is to teach young people that there's more to just groove and they're actually people that have got a work ethic. Let's talk about that, because many times we don't talk about it. How many hours do you work a day? Maybe let's start. How does your day look?
Well, let me start with the DJs. She was so right. DJ Zintle was so right. But I think maybe the way it came across, people just went to misinterpret it and started to cancel them. But, our work ethic is not good. If you just go to, I've been blessed to travel to Dubai, and the average person my age, what they're doing in Dubai, in the UAE, it's ages away, Well, I know obviously there's the digital age where we can, we can see what other people are doing in other parts of the world. But the work ethic, that side, those Arabs are not playing, those Americans are not playing, those British are not playing. So we also as young people need to really step it up, my hours of work, when we did the app, I slept for 3 hours a day for 2 months.
Sure.
Saturdays and Sundays included. Yeah. Because so I was like sort of the architect. So we sat with the coders, developers, and I would say, I want the app to do this, look at the data also to say, what is it the customer wants to see? Then I'll tell the developers, the app, when you go in, it should do this, it should do that. There were 3 diagrams being drawn, there was that. And I'd be there, they would obviously code, then we would test it, see does it do what it's supposed to do. So for 2 to 3 months we did that, and finally we got the end product. So basically, my work day is 20-hour work day, but I try to take breaks in between, and I try to spend it because I have 2 daughters, so. It's not 20 days of continuous work. There's always that 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. where I'm just with the girls, laptops off, phones off. I just relax with them and then go back to work. So and I have offices in strategic places. Like I have my home office. We have branches in Botswana, so each branch I have an office there. So whichever part I am of the city, there's somewhere where I can quickly go there and push some intensive work.
And how do you measure the output of your day? Because many young people that have asked me this question to say, they put their laptop in front of them, they open up music, on the other side they open up something else and they start. When I was even saying to them to say, when I work, what music is this that you're talking about? When you work, you focus. But what are your key outcomes when you work? When you start your day, how does that work regime go?
Yeah, so the workflow itself, I've summed it up in a graph. In the mornings where your mind is really sharp, that is where you do your high impact tasks. And I really don't listen to music, sermons, whatever. It's high focus. And so what I'll do is I'll also just put on a calendar to say these are the high impact tasks. Once you are looking at contracts, once you are looking at contracts with your tutors, your suppliers, accounts, management accounts, that is work that you really need to be consumed in. Then as the day goes by, you get your lower impact duties. And one thing I've learned is really to delegate, because you can't do everything. So right now I've delegated my emails. I have a personal assistant, I have an executive assistant. I give them tasks to say, okay, you do this, you do this. Then it sort of frees up more of my time to really think of the company. Because right now I'm in a crossroad where I'm the founder and the CEO, and I'm really trying to leave the CEO and become the founder, because that's where the spiritual insights come, and I need to be in a good place. A good place where, I have my USA and I can see where the company is
I was
going.
still waiting for the dream of sitting on the beach and opening up my apps and checking the company.
Or playing golf.
Play golf.
Yeah, no, but, once you really let go of some of these operational duties, you can see that there's actually a lot of time that a day has, So I'm really trying to let go of some of these duties, and it really helps me to mentor other people, such that one day, if I'm not here, Lion Tutoring can still be operating, because it's a system, everyone knows what to do. I just come as really the mentor and just to shape the direction in which the organization is going.
That's very profound. I mean, a lot of people usually say, in the mornings, start with the high impact goals.
Yes.
And then throughout the day, sort of get admin right at the end where...
At the end, yeah. Yeah, at that point, I even just listen to music. There's a time where I was like, I'm going to listen to a sermon while I'm doing some work, or play some music. I'm a piano, and, whatever the case may be. But you don't want to do that in the morning.
Yeah.
And gym is really important. Like, you really want to get your... I don't look like I've gymmed in a while. But, when I do gym, I do make sure that I put some cardio in, get the blood to circulate, because, you start to think with a fresh mind.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, or maybe even somebody who is still alive, but usually people say in history, who would it be and why?
There is something else. I would like to have dinner with Cesar Zahama, the first president of Botswana, because I feel there's a lot that man did for our independence, and I feel the history books really haven't captured, and, there's been movies around, Cesar Zahama and what he did, but I feel they didn't do it much justice, So if I had a moment to just have a dinner with him, I mean, I would, because, there's such a lot that man did for Botswana. And during those times, it was the wars, this side there was apartheid, there's a lot of even South African liberation movements, which Botswana was quite instrumental. There's a time where they said there was some soccer team that was, there was some people in a liberation movement, they were moving weapons to a soccer team, like the way they could coordinate all of that, for us to now be where we are today. It's those heroes that we have. He's sort of our Nelson Mandela. And I think, with his history, it wasn't really captured, and yeah, it would be nice to have dinner with him.
That's profound. What are one of the questions that you'd ask him?
I would ask him how, because for me, the leadership, in Botswana, there's so many tribes, and to come from one tribe and be able to influence other tribes that don't speak your language, for me was like something else. I would ask him how are you able to approach different tribes, which at the time I believe also were fighting, because there was issues of land, there was issues of the war. It was just war throughout, and to be able to bring everything together and for us to stand for one thing, it's so profound. So just how to lead, people that are fighting, how to bring people together and sort of, I don't want to use the word to brainwash them, but it's just a lack of, a better word to use, but just to get everyone into the same mandate and for them to fight to fight in one side. Right now at Lion Tutoring, for instance, we hire different people, different religions, different sexual orientations, different ethnicities, and it's so difficult to get people into one side to say, guys, let's put our ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your religion, let's put it on our side. Let's try to work on this mission. It's so difficult to do that, and to see that people have done it. Your Nelson Mandela has done it for South Africa, and for Botswana.
What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned when things did not go your way? People say failure. I hate the word failure because I think you never fail. But what is that lesson that you've learned?
The lesson that I've learned is God above it all. Like I say, I'm really in touch with my spiritual side and also just values. One thing I really thank my parents for giving me is, apart from Christianity as a religion, but the Christian values, and I feel those Christian values, they even just surpass religion, just those values of, even Ubuntu, I feel it's a value that goes abroad, whether you are Botswana or you are Umzulu or you are from a different country, you are from DRC or you are from Congo or you are from America, that Boto, we call it Boto, it's what really brings us together. So some of those values that have really been instilled in us, I feel that is the X factor that, God is using to do such an amazing work.
That's so profound.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh no, you did. Yeah, I think that's so important because it covers everything in that. In your personal habits, the practices that you incorporate, what's the one personal habit that you've taken from a young age? I mean, you're still young, and you've just sort of taken throughout that you really think it's really helped contribute to the person that you are today.
Sure. Question. Let's give that question. Well, my habits, the habit of telling the truth, it's a habit that my mom has really instilled onto me from an early age. So, telling the truth, lies have short legs, So always being truthful to other people and to yourself has really helped because I see things for what they are. I don't try to believe in my own lies. So if I'm in a certain situation in my life, I'm truthful to myself to say, Thobo, I'm here. I need to take A, B, C, D steps to get to the next level, or I need to continue maintaining A, B, C, D to remain where I am. So I think that is the one thing I've really taken from as young as I could learn from my mom to say. I used to tell lies, like, Thobo, who took the money? I'm like, I don't know where the money is. It's in my pocket, And, that my mom always, preaching down that has really helped me to be truthful to myself, to be truthful to other people, because it builds integrity. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. I'd rather tell you that I wasn't able to meet the target and I'm sorry. And I take full responsibility. So even being truthful also builds accountability. I'm accountable to my wife. I'm accountable to the church. I'm accountable to God. I'm accountable to my family. I'm accountable to young people. If money comes into my account and I know that money's in the account or is in the company account and I use it for other things and I don't pay people salaries on time, I don't pay landlords, I don't pay, etc., it's going to do more damage. So I'd rather tell the truth and say, Mr. Mpho, I can't pay you now, but I'm working on a plan to pay you. I don't have the money. And I won't tell you that I don't have the money, although I know I have the money, So that is basically, just being truthful. And I just hope God keeps instilling that and keeping me to be truthful and accountable.
Oh, that's very profound.
Yeah.
As we round up the interview, looking ahead, I mean, you've done exceptionally well employing young people in a beautiful division, the education industry. But what is the vision and the legacy that you want to leave behind? And I know it's tricky because you're young.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do. But what's that legacy that you want to leave?
I just want to be a disruptor. I just want to change how things have been done, which are not working. In terms of education right now, the schools in Botswana where I'm making more of an impact because obviously we started there, the schools don't like us. And it's a good thing, because we are disrupting how things have been done over the years. I remember there was a committee that I was in. It was set by the presidential committee on value chain development, looking at education. So there's a mindset change campaign that is running in our country. So I was part of this committee, and the first thing I was saying is our education system needs to be overhauled because money is going to the UK in terms of us importing the curriculum. And when you import the curriculum, you import the textbooks, you give more power to the authors that side, the publishing companies that side, you get it. So I thought we just need to overhaul this thing. Guess what? I was kicked out of the campaign because I think it takes those kind of young people to really disrupt how things have been done. And obviously it will be an inconvenience. There's going to be more admin to be done, but one day, you leave a legacy and say, I came in, the pass rate for the country was X, and this is where the pass rate is. The education system was only benefiting a subset of students. Now it benefits the entire population. And irregardless of if you are a high achiever or, there are some students who are not meant to be doing maths, but they're doing maths. Those students are supposed to be athletes. Those students are supposed to be chefs. They're supposed to be doing things that, and seeing other countries like Singapore where they can be able to tailor-make the education system for young people, it's something that we also can do. So I want to be a disruptor. I just want to disrupt, dismantle everything, put it back together. And if my disruption doesn't serve the people, then it's not a good disruption. It has to be able to serve the people, and that is what the legacy is.
I mean, you've been an outlier in Botswana in that you were the first Botswana to get onto the Forbes list.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a disruptor, that you're disrupting the education system.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this pattern, I'm like, okay, this man is a disruptor at his core. But what are those core things that encourage you to continue disrupting? Because when you say you were kicked out of a committee, I'm sure it was like, okay, what do I do now? What's that drive that keeps saying, you know what, we must disrupt, we must break things down and put them together?
Yeah, man. Like it's so sad, Mr. Dagada, once you see okay, you look at the education rates, right? Okay, you look at the Gini coefficient. Start with the Gini coefficient. 60% of people, or this coefficient that shows that the poor are poorer and continuously getting poorer. The rich are richer and continuously getting richer. You start there, then you go into the education system. There's a child in a school that doesn't have resources who is very smart, but because they don't have the resources from a child who was born into a wealthy family in the right part of the country, it's going to seem as if this student is not as smart or sharp as this other student. So that is where it really, it's a thorn in the flesh for me. The unemployment, seeing continuously, and I talked to my dad a lot, and he was telling me that back then when they graduated, there were recruiters at the university. So you'd have so you'd get your degree and people are like there with contracts to sign you up for your job. And I'm like, what? I've never thought of that because, in our time, you'd still get your master's degree, you'd still get experience, and you still won't get a job. Oh, you understand? So for me, that's the thorn in the flesh to say, what is the problem? Why can't it be fixed? Why can't we see black young people, black young females getting into jobs? Most of them have actually very good skills that could benefit the economy. So you talk of it from, and I think that is why I really resonate with SDGs, because, you talk about quality education for all. And there are parts of the world where you get the best education, parts of the country, parts of the city where you get better education than other parts. And for me, that disparity, we need to do something about it.
Oh, that's so profound.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about that, the wealth gap and the inequality gap, and we talk about education, you sort of come back to the root of it to say education.
Yeah.
So the tutoring service, or getting your child a tutor, could allow them to get the quality education that the billionaire's child is getting.
Exactly.
Because somebody else is.
Exactly. We've done it so many times. Like, man, like if we had time, I would show you the projects we've done where we would have our tutors connect with students in the most remote part of the Kalahari Desert, where, you know, even your 4x4s struggle to get to those places, but they would connect on an online platform with these tutors, and they can be able to get the right education. And I think the partners that we've had, like I've said, you know, some of the banks, you know, some of the CSR projects, because with us, we try to do our best to avail the resources, but there's always that thing of how do I pay the tutors, you know, how do I get the service to be conducted, how do I connect them to the best internet, to the best, you know, connections, etc. So that issue of resources, once we can, you know, really nail it down, we can get a child in the Kalahari Desert to be given the same education quality as somebody who's here. And COVID has shown us that it's possible. You know, if we can deploy tutors to those areas, of which some of the townships just 20 kilometers drive outside Johannesburg. You know, you don't even, those ones you can even literally deploy the tutors to those locations. So I believe that, you know, that inequality can be brought down. You know, if we can just hold hands and push, it's possible.
Definitely. And I mean, in closing, in one sentence, and I know this is something that many people struggle with, but how would you like people to remember you?
Obituary in one sentence. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's easy because I always meditate on that. I choose to make people better than when I be. So before I see you and after I see you, there should be a difference. And I feel like I should make you better before you saw me and after.
Wow, so profound. Changing the educational game and disrupting it with an amazing platform, Lion Tutoring. Congratulations and much great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, sir. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. And God bless you.